African Voices International, Freedom in Africa.
Programs, when we have programs with other African freedom giants from other countries, Nigeria, Malawi, Sierra Leone, every country, we see others joining and bringing forth their minds, and we might be very humble to see them. So we'll begin with the questions, and so please let's just pay attention to everything that goes on, so that you go back not the same. It's also a test for me, so I go back and next time we have a program, I'm different, I'm more transformed. So we'll begin shortly with a dialogue as we have our two panelists on board. So Chief Zablong, please, I'm very humble to see you today. Chief General Nsiah, I'm also very much humble to see you and how you've all taken time of your busy schedule to be here. We don't take any of these for granted. We know you have things that you are doing. You know, Chief Zablong is a lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, and even today he was supposed to be at Legon facilitating some IAs that have been written. General Nsiah is also a retiree from the Housing Corporation. He worked also in London and also in Ghana, and he's also facilitating a whole lot of matters in the traditional area. But he said, once African Voices International is having a program, I must be there. So we must not take it light that they are here. So we'll begin shortly with the questions. Then from there, we box on. If you have any question to give, you can just simply bring your question after their point that they've raised. So that is it. And I actually have my book and my pen to be able to note and jot down things in the program, so that we keep in our report, aside what is going on. So first of all, with General Nsiah, I want to ask him whether there is peaceful cohesion between the young and the adults. Because we realize that there's
the cultural thing and the legal situation. Somebody would think, like a lot of people my age will say to you, there's so much indiscipline now because of lack of corporal punishment or something in schools. But I think it's both, it's rubbish. Because when children are scared of adults, children don't just perform, do what the adults tell them, they stop thinking. And when you're a child and you stop thinking, you can bet your bottom dollar when you're an adult, you're not gonna think. And it goes through our educational system. You find we are very good at studying parrot fashion. You just chew, pour, pass and forget. Because we are not encouraged to think for ourselves. We are not encouraged to challenge our adults when they are not telling us the truth, but we know it's not the truth. We just accept it, and it kind of stunts our thought processes. We're not critical enough. We tend to accept a lot of rubbish thrown at us as young people by thinking, oh, if I question this old boy, I'm gonna be called a bad boy, or I don't know what you're supposed to be. But I tell you, it's so wrong. If you're a young person, especially, you guys are maybe in tertiary education or working or whatever. I tell you, if you stop questioning, what your lecturers tell you, you are not going to learn. You're going to just do enough to pass your exam, but it will stick with you. You become very timid, and you see it in when you put a lot of Africans together. When you're in Europe, for example, when you put a lot of Africans together and European kids together, you find the Europeans tend to be timid. And when you're timid in public, you almost take on the facade of a stupid person, and everybody bullies you. You are bullied. So I think the relationship between adults and children in the Ghana anatomy has deserves a lot of improvement, because the thing about not letting our young people think for themselves or set them challenges that will make them think for themselves kind of leads to a very docile population where everybody says, oh, in Ghana we are very, calm, we are very, nice and all this kind. We get bullied all the time when we leave the country. We get bullied all the time when we're outside the country. You go to Europe and everybody will be talking about how aggressive Nigerians are and how nice Ghanaians are. All they are saying is how timid Ghanaians are. You tell them whatever, they accept it. Nigerians are a bit more feisty. I don't know whether it's to do with their culture or partly their law or whatever, but sometimes it's just ironic because I see Nigerians lying on the floor as a respect, an order of respect for the elders kind of thing, which we don't do. And so it kind of, makes me wonder, where do they take their faceless from? And it occurred to me that they treat the elders completely different from they treat Europeans. The difference they gave to the elders and to Europeans is completely different. Whereas we follow it through. And I think one of the previous speakers spoke about looking at our educational system and all that type of stuff. I think this is a Pan-African forum, and I think one of the things that we should advocate in Africa, and I've advocated this elsewhere, is say for the first 5 years of our educational system, just abolish all foreign languages. We just do every instruction in every area. If you're in the Ghana area, you learn Ghana, speak Ghana, learn to read Ghana, learn about Ghana history, at least learn where you are from, and your mind, when you get to maybe class 4, class 5, and you start learning English, because you understand your own language and your own history, your attitude to the English language itself will be different. When I was that age, we used to have a plaque on our necks called "Vernacular is not allowed." I don't know if any of you had that. If you spoke Ghana or Tree in school, they put it around your neck to try and embarrass you to speak English rather than speak your own language. It's all wrong. And these are some of the things as young people, especially those of you in tertiary education, should be questioning. You should be thinking African. We have got everything on our continent and more, and we are being taken for a ride. Just moving to the part of the question about, I've moved on from adults and children, now moving on to the international stage, between nations, between rich and poor countries. Many poor countries have been dominated. The whole of Africa has been dominated, has been colonized apart from Ethiopia. And we've adopted French, Portuguese, English, whatever. Whatever the invaders came, they imposed it on us, we just accepted it. Now, we can be critical of our ancestors for not fighting hard enough, but maybe it was a survival adaptation where at some point they had to give in when the guns came in against bows and arrows. So we can give them the excuse. But now we are in a situation where with good leadership, we've got enough educated folk on the continent. I take Ghana. Ghana is what I know, right? When I was like a teenager, up to maybe just before the sixth, maybe fifth form or something, We only had one university in this country. We only had Legon. Then Kirkus came, then Tech came. Now there's a plethora of them. We've affiliated universities to foreign, universities and all this kind of thing. So everything remains, everything remaining the same. You can safely say that the Ghanaian population are better educated than when I was younger. So if we are better educated, what has the country got to show for it? What are we as young people doing to show that we are smarter, we are better educated than our fathers and our grandfathers who at least fought for independence? In my political analysis, I just think since the overthrow of Kwabena, the country has been standstill and in some areas gone even backwards. This is because I think one of the things about the Nkrumah period, there are a lot of flaws. There were a lot of flaws. One of the main flaws about Kwabena Nkrumah I didn't like personally was the one-party state. I remember when we were at school, I was an Nkrumah baby, if you like, because Nkrumah introduced free and compulsory education for primary schools, and we all had to go to school and all that kind of stuff. So we benefited a lot. We got through education without paying anything. Nkrumah supported it. The only motorway in the country was built by Nkrumah, and it's still the only motorway after, I don't know, he was overthrown in '66. It's still the only motorway in the country. Education, as I said, he started it up. There's been an expansion of them. Temahabo is there, Vago, a lot of state housing corporation he set up, and all the things he created were still there. But I'm talking about Nkrumah in this way because I want to show you that the development of Africa is not necessarily favored by Europe and America. Because Europe and America, in fact, America undermined Nkrumah, paid for his coup to get rid of him. And my favorite example is Gaddafi. Now I see bits of literature around about Gaddafi being Libya being a country that had free education, free health, and even if you were sick and no hospital could treat you in Libya, and you can identify a hospital outside the country that could treat you, the state paid for it. Right? Now, Libya is a war zone, and yet we were told, or the Western propaganda was there, that Gaddafi was a dictator, and Gaddafi was this, Gaddafi was that. Nobody can convince me now that what is happening in Libya now is better than when Gaddafi was alive, however brutal it was. Because now Libya is a war zone, and they can't even agree on a head of state. Right? So when it comes to the relationship between countries, the poor countries are forever being misled by the rich countries, simply because, especially for Africa's benefit to Europe and America is as a natural resource provider, for their development. The developed countries want to come here, take our cocoa for their luxury drinks, chocolates, or some kind of liqueur. Take our gold for their ornaments. Isn't it ridiculous that we provide gold, but gold is priced in Switzerland? Things like that. These are things that our leaders, and I'm talking to you like this because I'm counting on you as the future leaders. You should know these things, and you should not be cowed by any propaganda from the West or the East, for that matter. Nkrumah put it nicely. We neither look East or West, we look forward. So that's what you should be doing. You should be looking forward. When it comes to East or West, we have to be confident in what we've got. We don't have to think because it's from outside the country is better than what we've got. There's something called local. When you go to buy something, they tell you, oh, do you want a local one or you want a foreign one? And I say, what's the difference? Most of the time it's like 10 times the price difference. And generally, when it's not always true, but generally, when you are in a market situation, better quality commodities have high prices. So if you're buying something, they say, because it's higher price, they say, oh, that's foreign, or because it's cheaper, it's local. We are demeaning our own goods. We are some unscrupulous traders would even say that to you just to bump up their prices. They will say this is off from here because they look at you and they think you might not know the difference. And they'll sell you a local good telling you it's from outside and sell you higher prices. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to not go to school, not go to university to just chew purpose and forget. We need to learn. We need to open our minds and try and look at why we are doing things. I recently did something for AVI, and it struck me that if you live in Ghana, you see things completely different from if you move outside. Because when you're in Ghana, there are a lot of things that you think automatically it must be better outside. It must be, but it's not true at all. There are a lot of stuff that if you live outside, you always want, oh, can you send this thing from me because the European one is useless. And if you bother to look at it, you see that we are not in freedom at all. We actually give white people the free pass. We don't question them. Whatever they say to us, we seem to accept. And this just puts me on our leadership. Our leaders, most of them having studied or lived outside before, you would think would behave differently, but they don't. They don't seem to have the confidence to challenge things. And a lot of the time, you don't have to blame them too much. But I'm not a politician, so I can blame them. I can criticize them as much as I want. But you should also bear in mind that a lot of people, a lot of African leaders who've taken the mantle for Africa have been eliminated. I think our leaders sometimes undermine how mean Europeans and Americans, or for that matter, the Chinese and Japanese and things, they can be really, really mean when it comes to protecting their national interest. And that's what we need to do. We need to learn to be mean to protect our national interest. It doesn't make sense that a proud Ghanaian leader would say, I don't feel well, so I'm going to take a plane and go to America or go to Europe for treatment. This to me is treason, If you're the head of state, you want to make sure you got good enough health system that even if you are sick, you cure yourself in your own country. If you are sick, you want to go, you want your people to see you actually being wheeled into 37 Kolebu, whatever hospital in your own country and using your services. The same thing comes to the children. It doesn't make sense that you be a minister of education, for example, and your children would be schooling outside the country. This is, to me, it's treason. You are undermining your own education system, because if that's the thinking, it means even though you're running the system, you don't care whether it's performing or not. You don't care whether it's delivering what it should deliver or not. So when it comes to the contrast between the two, thinking about adult and young people and the youth, it's not balanced. There's a lot to be done. In Ghana, I think some of our faults come from our traditional systems where we don't really challenge adults. When an adult is blatantly lying, we are not brought up, we are not educated to challenge our adults. I hope it will change. I hope it will change, because there are many adults now who are speaking like I'm speaking now. Only because we know the problems that arise with timidity. You know, when your children are timid and they don't question you enough, it's okay. You think you like it. But when you are sick and your children, when you are old and you are sick and your children take you to hospital and the nurses and doctors are not performing, you lie there hoping, say, I wish my children were a bit more questioning. I wish my children were a bit more forward, man. We challenge this situation that is not acceptable. So as young people, I'm saying to you, if you come across something that's not acceptable, don't be timid. We've got certain cultural practices. The Equapians have got it to a T. They say, that kind of thing. Yeah, they will insult you in a very polite way. You have to accept yourself. You have to make sure that whatever you are doing, you're doing something you wouldn't like to be done to you. Yeah, I think I'll pass it on now. Thank
you. Well, as relentless as we are, we always do things phenomenally. We don't look here or there. As Nsiah said, we don't look, as he said from Dr. Kwabena phrase, we don't look to each other, we look forward in all that we do. There's been various kinds of thick and thins in all that we do, but we don't settle for less. Even just trying to even work on our program, our microphones just have certain issues. So we'll give it to our Freedom Giant to just work on this whilst she finishes working on it. Then we go to the next question. Nsiah simply spoke about how there is lack of cohesion and understanding between youth and adults. And that's what led to a distortion. It's led to a standstill in how things are. We're not able to express ourselves. We're not able to speak and say that we think this should be done this way. Parents just force their children to go to school to do the courses that they think they should do. Now they come out and they don't even know what to do. And all these things are just serving as debilitating threats, are just serving as, are just serving as issues, are just serving as bombardments, are just serving as so much debilitating threats towards us, and we must be proactive and stand tall. So from what General Nsiah said and what he said and what he spoke about in terms of we as young ones, being able to express ourselves, being proactive enough, speaking out, and also expressing the African heritage is very quintessential. From the beginning, he spoke about how, if we stop questioning what we need, then we'll become timid. If we stop questioning things and we just begin to just look and just say that whatever will be, things will be as it is. So we need to be proactive and stand tall. And I think he's saying this personally, it's really thrown some light to me, General Nsiah, because even though I'm proactive, there are certain things that I was still trying to be muted in a way. And I think what I was listening to you is drawing something within myself, within my senses, that if I could question this, there could be a change or a startup for how things should go. and it's really driving in our senses. You know, in African Conversation, we write reports on everything. Every program we have, be it virtual, be it physical, we write reports. Or we have, we have something to give as a backup. When Nsiah, the younger sister passed away, and two Freedom Giants represent organization went to visit him. At least there were backups on our files. You know, in everything that we do, to show the need for how there must be a clarity about how things are done. And you know, Nsiah indeed reflected himself as a model of freedom. You know, because there was so much harmony between people of our age and people of his age at the program. You know, these are things that we need to do, and we must be the reflection wherever we find ourselves. So for me personally, I don't settle for less. Wherever I go, wherever I've worked, I don't settle for less. And I keep on learning more from Nsiah. We would want to go to the next question, whereby we'll be also talking on this issue, because this is a very psychological issue. African Voice International, we talk about Africa in the psychological perspective. So in all that we say, we expect Freedom Giants to understand what we say, so that in their daily lives, there is that etiquette of change that we need. You know, and that's why we are different. I see Freedom Giant Dramina, I see Freedom Giant Priscilla, I see every Freedom Giant here. We are all change makers. We are all different, and we need to keep on doing this. Regardless of their number, regardless of whatever, we need to keep on. You know, and one thing that should really encourage us is when we see enmity from the opposition. That is what should even make us, boost us to even work more. That is what should even tell us that we are going to work more. Yes. Because whenever we see enmity, it means that there is something that is not going on well in the society. That is why people are not happy with what we are doing. So we must even stand tall more and be proactive enough for the change that we need to see with this. So we are very much humbled with what Freedom Giant, with what General Nsiah has said, and what he has spoken about, how if we are better educated, things will really go on well, and talked about how indeed the development of Africa is currently focused on foreign anatomies, and how we need to change ourselves as a people in what we do, so that there can be a change. You know, we have the same question for you: that is there really peaceful cohesion? And if there's no peaceful cohesion, we draw to the next question: that why are things the way it is? Why are things the way it is in our society? If there's no peaceful cohesion, drawing from General Nsiah's methodology, why are things the way they are in our society? Thank you very much, Chief.
Let me make a slight correction. Zablong.
Yes, sorry about that.
Chief Zablong. And I'm from Zabzu. Right? I'm an oral historian. Amongst the Dagon traditional area, the number one oral historian is the Namana who resides in Yindi. And I'm the number two. Now, the problem we are grappling with is two-sided coin. And the problem we face is that we refuse to do the right thing. Don't let the white man dictate you. I was in the US, and there was a silly question they posed. When you were coming to the US, how do you feel? Or what was your mind telling you? And I said, my mind was telling me things that I wanted to do here. I'm coming to teach, so my focus on everything is on that. Not to look at the skyscrapers. I'm not interested in the US. And when I finished my program, I'm back. I went again, I came back. So we should take the mantle and believe in ourselves. Believe in your country. Believe that you can make it wherever you are, but not outside. Now, if you are running away, who will
will do it here for you to come back. If you say Ghana is too difficult, it's too hard, go there to become a slave for somebody. Someone to dictate to you and pay you what he wants. Ask those who go there. If you are not able to get the proper car, work permit, can you work there?
No, you can't. You become somebody's slave.
That's what I'm saying. Even if your brother, a Ghanaian, is going to give you his car to work with, how much will you pay? The sort of nasty work people do there, if they decide to do it here, but here they will tell you, I won't do that job. So please, and you said we shouldn't go back, but I was thinking that Africa failed themselves. The Berlin Conference in Germany, no African country was consulted. They sat down and decided on their own to divide Africa amongst themselves. And when they came down, who resisted? No. Ethiopia is the only country in Africa which nobody colonized. Why? Because they refused it. So if everybody had agreed, would they have colonized it? No. And when they did to us, that's where some of them begin to talk about African doctrine. Because you can't just sit in your own country and someone who jump from somewhere come to dictate to you. And that is where the problem begins with books writing, anthropology. Those times they were writing, the gap of what we call language was big. You just came, I don't know you, don't know you. I don't speak your language. You stand aside and observe me and go back to write about it. So later, anthropologists themselves, they realized it was wrong. You need to stay with the people, learn their language, before you can do interviews that you yourself will suggest. Because you understand their language. Now, assuming you go there and you take somebody, what was the language back then? No Ghanaian could say he could speak English, let alone Greek, Portuguese, whatever. So all those who came down only observed our fathers, our grandfathers, and go back to write. But later on, they themselves realized, no, it was wrong, big wrong. But people have written those books, and that was what everybody was reading. And today themselves realized, no. So they themselves again turned back to say it will be better for you to do good research. Stay with the people, mingle with them, even eat their food, learn their language, so that you can make meaningful contribution to whatever you want to write. And they packed that even with their educational system today. That's why we're having the problem. If we had mixed our culture with the text, whatever we want to teach, let we ourselves decide. And that's the problem we are facing too. Even your democracy. Whose democracy are you practicing? They packed it the way they want. When we were talking about what we call it, World Bank was not put together because of you. IMF was not put together. It was after the Second World War and First World War. It was for themselves. And that is why when you go there now, they have terms and conditions that they lay down for you. To make sure that your hands are tight and you keep borrowing. I don't belong to any party. I refuse it. can speak my mind. So until we ourselves decide enough is enough. Look, now everybody is looking at Africa. And we are serious, we will take the whole world by surprise. Because what has just happened between Ukraine and Russia, Europe, they themselves are not saying it. Not us. So we should think loud and think clear and decide the way to move forward. All their lies, US lies, what have they done to Saddam Hussein? Say we have mass weapons of destruction. Later it wasn't true. Now people are saying it. South African president, he told them Africa your land and America your land won't accept it again. When we do something, we should be sent to international court. But when you mess up, nothing happens. So who is fooling who? In my class, there were some foreign students. And I used just this restaurant that they are doing. And advised that at the end of the day, they said, don't try it at home or school. So I asked them, so when your forefathers wanted to come into Africa, they condemned everything African, barbaric, satanic, devilish. Now we don't call it. We now see that we have something wrong. We are coming. The wrestling you are doing, and you are always saying that no one should try that. If we were Africans doing it, you would label as something. And because of that, they walk out of the class. They never came again and said rubbish. I'm not teaching because of it. So please, we should think and think far and deep. The problem I'm seeing here is that if we say you should wait and wait and wait until when? When? You are dying gradually. It's okay if I go to the grave, maybe later my children will continue. Who will tell you they can also come out to continue? And if we get back to the tradition, I will look at mine, because we can lump all Ghana together. Some cultures, parents make sure children should eat first. Some will say we all eat. Now, for me, in the north, there are sometimes some elderly people die early because the farming system. Only one time. So what you harvest this year is not able to keep you to the next year. You are doomed. You don't have sheep or cattle to sell during the lean season. Maybe what you have harvested cannot sustain the family. So that is why sometimes the old man will drink porridge and chew corn. When they bring the afternoon food, they will just take 1 or 2 balls and give it to the children. When he is hungry, he will never cry. But when your child is hungry, you cry. So sometimes when we want to lump Africa as one, Ghana even is not one, because cultures vary. The way that we do things is very far different. So we shouldn't think Ghana is a one state, and so all the cultures, all the ethnic groups think the same way. No. I'm telling you from experience. And that is why men die early, very early. Because the pain, they swallow the pain. Woman will cry and say, I won't accept it. But you see an elder person, he will say, If you ask him, Father, why? He said nothing. He will tell you. So please, if you are going to stand to fight something, and you are thinking, like Kwabena said, don't look at any political party. You are thinking about Ghana. Our ancestors fought wars earlier, before Ghana became Ghana. And up to the time of independence, we all heard about someone saying, we need it now.
Yes.
And some others said, no, let's allow them to give it to us when they want. So if it were that we wanted them to give it to us when they want, it would have happened like South Africa. The white man seeing good in your country, and you want him to rule you till the time he feels like releasing power to you. So let's talk to the youth to be worried about what happened to Ghana before. Some don't know. King Henry, the first of Portugal, he initiated the fact that they used Christianity, that they were going to recruit some Africans because they were having problem with the plantations. The West Indians were not able to cope with the temperature and everything. And so they decided that they should take 13 Africans as sample, but pretended that they were going to use them to train them as pastors, convert them to Christianity, and send them back to Africa. Later they were thrown into the plantations. And when they experimented them and realized that yes, now we have a labor pool where we can go and draw, that was how come they come and share Africa. They decided to take the slave trade. And now they are telling you that 400 years of taking strong, energetic Africans, they have no record of that. Who can buy that? So our downfall and everything started from there. Energetic, both male and female. Those who were dying along the way from the hinterland up to wherever, no one can count. And they will put them in the dragons, are waiting till the ship was full. So some also jumped into the sea, because in my own land, if this is what I'm going to, what if I get there? And when they were biting the slaves, your name was not there again. You know our family. It is the one who buy you. And he used what? Red iron. Mark you. So let's talk for those who listen to listen. So those who think white man is the best person, you are joking. Have you seen any white man being serious? Even if you're going to kill him, he'll be smiling. So sometimes when some of us sit around, you see people talking, just begin to ask that the person who is talking about. So in Africa, and I use some of these things as part of my teaching, parents make sure that in my culture, the clan head or the family head will make sure you check every week before you go to sleep. That was the practice. If one person is not there, he will sit outside. There was something we called the stool outside. You sit and wait to find out who sent you. You have to tell him who sent you. So it wasn't, it was something, some kind of training to guide you, both male and female. Because it was an insult for someone to hold your hand tomorrow, to come and tell them that you were in their house when you are playing with their children and something happens. No. The respect for everybody, the right for everybody. Now, what are we seeing? Parents are indoors, children are outside, playing. So is that the freedom we want? Is that the human rights that we want? So please, 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 let some of us dig back to see what was happening in the past. People were walking naked, but no one was harassing any woman or girl. Because the training was such that forget about what you are seeing. Today it's not the teenage violence is all over. Who's talking about it? Why is it so? And they still want to lambast some of our traditions and cultures. Sometimes when you sit and some people talk, either on the FM or TV, it is our culture, it is our behavior, it is our character, it is the way we are thinking. Who tell you that? Now, anybody could discipline anybody's child in the community. Today, even in your own house, you correct somebody's son or child and you tell you, I know you don't like my children, I know. You are not telling me, I know it. Like it was like, if you don't check anybody's child and the person misbehaves, it affects the whole community. What are we seeing? Samon, we, all over. And they want to check children and it's wrong for you to do that. You have no right. When they talk about child killing children in school, for me, I think that brought down the standard of education in Ghana. Some children want kill. So if you say everybody, so me, I go to the school to tell the children, the teachers, if my child will kill that person, discipline them. I'm not going to silence them. So it was the rich in Ghana who imported that thing and want to make sure that if they kill anybody's child, they have the right to arrest you. Now, if you do that, now teacher will sit down. Now you come and you are playing, he has no time to check you. At the end of the month, they will pay him. When your child fail your education, whatever they are doing, can you come to arrest the teacher that he did not teach you? So there are certain things we have to look back to see. How does it help us? In which way? Some of us, the education, I don't know whether, there was no basic, this sort of a crèche, now private schools spread all over for people to pay. And teachers were doing their best. But because someone started it, and someone thinks it makes more money for you, who I can also do that. So the issue of someone killing somebody, sometimes, I don't know, a parent is not that foolish, that crazy, to just be killing somebody. If teacher talk 1, 2, 3, and maybe the child is somebody who is stubborn, excuse me to say, and you say maybe this particular child, unless I kill him, then you go attack the teacher. He say, okay, thank you, madam. I will never touch your child again. And if you're not doing well, who can you call all responsible? So sometimes I see that people who go to attack teachers, either read them in their house and beat them up. It's not the best. Did you even come to ask, what did the child do? You don't care. Just because you feel you don't kill your child, so who is that teacher killing that child? So if we want, we should make serious research about this and see how terrible it has happened. It has harmed the educational system. Otherwise, the country is sinking. How many of the rich men train their children in this country? Just what we were talking about. The hospital, they won't go. So if it is water, they don't come. You have some nurses in Ghana. You go to mention your name and tell, sir, can you spell it for me? So if I haven't been to school, I shouldn't come to the hospital. Because you cannot even spell my name. My wife went to Legon hospital here. When they talk about now, they are changing it to so that when you go, they will type everything on the internet and then they will send the medicine to you. They use somebody who had BP and had this two things. They exchange that woman's medication to my wife and asked her to come 3 days for a review. She came home and took the drugs. The lucky thing that they did was, if she had come to tell me in the office, that the doctor said she should go back and bring the drugs. You know, she had brought some. The doctor himself checked, looked at her and said, Madam, you were not at this moment when you came here. Sir, the drug that you gave me. So, do you bring some? Say yes. No, this one no one said it. So quickly go back to Legon. She went and brought it. Before they came, I called some medical doctor to find out. They told, since it did not have any effect on her, it will not happen, nothing will happen. Otherwise, one of my lawyers said, let's send them to court. That's how they kill people. So we have a fight on our hand. Doctors and nurses kill people. And for me, when I'm sick, I don't want to even go to hospital. Because who am I going to? So please, the way things are happening in Ghana, sometimes if you are not rich, you can't go to a better school again. University, how much are they taking? Undergrad, how much? So what is happening? It means that time will come that we are creating a class system in Ghana. The rich will continue to be rich, and the poor will be poor. Think about that. So when we are taking now to talk about tomorrow and future, who holds the future? Why is it that there are laws, but we cannot implement the laws? The poor man steals a cat, they will jail him. If vulnerable steal millions of cedis, sit down, or they push him somewhere. So when will you ever be powerful to fight it? When? Well, we are not in this country. In this country, Legon, a guy completed Legon. He followed ministers, nothing. Finally, had to go home and farm. So please, the way things are going on, we need to be serious about what we are discussing. Self-independence. Africa is the same thing. That is why they don't have a military attaché, they don't have military school. If they have to do something, they have to go to France. So how? And that is why in West Africa, when we started this thing, it cannot work. Because France will call all of them and tell them, hey, where you are going, if you implement that thing, you are doomed. So not only the whites, America and Europe, we fight in Africa. But what are you going to fight for Africa? But the only thing is that how can we receive it and get hold of it? All Europe, they know. Americans know that time to come, Africa will rule the world. They know. And they are sending people into Africa to check our securities. I received that message. All the things they came and stole in Benin and sent it somewhere, they said that was not what they wanted. They want this physical magic power. By some of them that they use to make whatever bulletproof, cars bulletproof and everything. It is African magic. Microscope and telescope, whatever they use to see wonderful things, is magic. But now they think they haven't taken the writing. The writing is the power that they can use to conquer Africa. And I'm telling my people, never, never. If any white man comes to tell you, I want any magic, tell me you don't have any magic. They should take their magic and give me it. Come to use money to influence some people, to get what they want. And when the time comes, they can still rule the world. We shouldn't accept that. We shouldn't accept that. Africans, America is the one ruling the world. And like what you were saying, he's using money. And it is because our rulers, leaders are not up and coming. I'll say it. Even in Ghana here, I tell people, look, if you are traveling from the north to the south, be watching, looking around, and ask yourself questions. Why is this place good and my place not good? Is it me or somebody? So the same way, the 400 years of people that you carry away, they made your place what it is today. And you don't want it to be better off. Still, you think you should seal the purpose, and you will rule us and do whatever you want. So I think for me to talk, the talk will not end. Have I answered any of the questions?
Chief, you've actually answered everything, and I think we'll try and analogize this to General Nsiah to frame this question on how he actually said that there was no cohesion between the young and the adult in Africa, and he also spoke on a different perspective, whereby through the history that you gave, it showed that in certain ethnic groups there is a strong form of cohesion, and we've had that kind of tradition within ourselves. But what has you spoke about how we were living civilized before the Berlin conference, when they came to dispatch us into this and that, and the Portuguese and British and French decided to take over. We already had our own ways. So if we already had our own ways, what has led to we still conforming to mediocrity on the national front? I would like to chip in that question to General Nsiah. Yes, please.
I think a lot of water has gone under the bridge from the 1864-65 conference. There's a lot happened from colonization, through new colonization, through multinationals acting as countries, acting even stronger than countries, advising countries how to behave and how not to behave, how to, the prices of our commodities, cocoa, timber, gold, diamond. We are producing it, and yet we are not confident enough to say, this is the money we want for it. If you don't want it, just go away. We're not confident to do that. They come to us and they look at us and they say, look, if you don't, the French are very notorious for that. If you don't do as they say, they actually penalize you, because the French have got soldiers in all the colonies. So, unless recently the Malians actually chased them out. But basically, we have put ourselves in a position where we play second fiddle to Europe. We play second fiddle to our colonizers. We behave as if without them we can't do anything. And I think it's because of a selfish bunch of leaders that we get from time to time who actually need the favor of Europe or America so that if there's uprising in the country, they will get asylum somewhere. And they play second fiddle to them and they sell us out. They sell all of us out. As young people, I just think you should all get political. I mean, speaking here, I think I'm preaching to the converted. But I think in Africa, our development is firmly in the political sphere because the politicians actually decide how the resources of the anatomies are used. And what I'm suggesting is I'm not advocating any particular party, but whatever party you belong to, just make sure your leadership are doing the right thing. And here's the thing, if your leadership does the right thing, which means you go around telling people, we are going to build one factory in every district. Every district is going to have a factory. That's the main point. If you do it, you're gonna get a lot of votes. If you don't do it, you get kicked out. So why don't our politicians do as they say? Half of the time, they promise things that they know very well are not deliverable. They know they can't do it, but they just spouting things out so people will vote for them.
They will see political talk.
That's right. And as young people, this is what you want to guard against. You want to be strong in your own political parties, right? I urge you to get political because if you think you are not going to be political, you're going to change anything, it's not going to happen. Other people will decide for you. I think it was Edward Beck, an Irish poet, who said, for evil to thrive, good people have to do nothing. So if you do nothing, you can't complain that things are not changing. So I'm urging you to get political. Whatever party you are in, explain or get your caucuses going and let them understand that if they did the right thing, the people will back them. A good example, which is happening in South Africa now, is amazing. I love the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters in South Africa. Their leader was the youth leader in the ANC, and it was too vocal. He was calling the leaders to task and things, and so they kicked him out. They suspended him from the team. So he decided to form a political party. So he formed EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, and he, at the moment they've got like 13 or 15 MPs in the South African Parliament, and they're doing a fantastic job. Even though they are not in power, they are more than in power because they're using the few MPs they got in the Parliament to shadow the cabinet ministers. Whatever the cabinet ministers are doing, they're following them and they're reporting in Parliament to make sure they do the right thing. And the right thing is being done in South Africa, well, most of the time. In fact, the EFF were instrumental in Jacob Zuma, the ex-president, being imprisoned because they called him out. You know, basically, all I'm saying is get involved with whatever political party you belong to or whatever. It doesn't make any difference to me, but make sure your political party is doing the right thing. And if they're not, you find yourself from maybe 3 or 4 different parties agreeing. Like you find a lot of people from, I don't know, this group, a few other groups, being in different political parties, all of a sudden finding you are actually agreeing on something which your political parties are refusing to do. And that's where you come together. You come together, and that's the AFF right there. You find you have more affiliation with young people from NPP and NDC having more in common than the young and the old in their own parties. And you find forming a political party for yourself is the way forward. And if that's the way forward, what we want the whole of Africa working for everybody. So we're starting in Ghana. We are in Ghana, so we do Ghana. The Nigerians are going to do the same. South Africa, they've started it, so they're going. And if we can do that here, you'll be surprised how clean the Ghanaian politics will be. A few of you will be corrupt because the system is never coming. We're humans and people make mistakes and all that type of thing. But if the commitment is to do the right thing, people from different backgrounds are coalescing and trying to do the right thing, but in different parties, you find eventually the youth from NDC will have more common with the youth in MPP than the youth in NDC and the old youth in adults in you get me. So that's why I suggest whatever you do, get political and make sure your political leaders do the right thing. That's all I'm praying for. I said, look, our politicians get paid enough. They get paid better than most in the country, so there's no need for them to be corrupt. If we are supposed, they are leading us and they are saying we should be able to live, and they are paid better than most of us, they have no reason to be corrupt. Period. They don't. And so if we are shadowing them and holding them to court to say, this is what you promised, we want you to deliver. If you don't deliver, we pass you on to somebody else. They will start singing. PLO Lumumba called it the hygiening of politics, the cleaning of politics. We have to actually make sure that anybody who decides to go into the national body politic is going there not because they just want to look after themselves and their family, but they want to do something positive for the country. And the reason why they should do something for the country is because we are going to pay them well. And they do get paid well. They get housekeepers, they got cars, they got all sorts of things that you and I can't afford. So why do they need to be using kind of resources for our schools or our hospitals as well? So this is something I'd like to leave with you guys. Talk to your friends. The youth, look, in Ghana, you have more young people with voting rights than adults. So you can change things. You can actually make a difference if you are aware and if you speak to your colleagues, your schoolmates, your whatever, your family, whatever, and explain to them that, look, some people are just taking the mickey out of us. We are paying them more than anything else, and we also give them the reins of the resources of the country, and they are not using it the way it should be done. They are just using it for themselves. That's not right, and this is what we want to correct. If that mindset is pushed through, eventually everybody will begin to connect why some classes are held under trees and some people go to work in a 34 cavalcade, in 34 convoy of cars, of vehicles. If you're able to connect that, then you will know what to do. Thank you.
Well, you spoke about how indeed you want all youth of our kind and the whole country to engage in politics as a right means of reframing the whole spectacle of our country, and you believe strongly that if it is hygienized, then to be very well, things will be very accurate. And it looks like politics has actually been misconceived in Africa. So people think that politics is just a rubbish talk, debate game, whereas politics should rather be how we can all dialogue together to talk about how our governments should rule our countries. So as a result, most of us go to university, we come back, we come out, and we are supposed to rather spearhead the affairs of our country, but because of how it is, most of us are down, and we want to just keep quiet and settle for less, when we are rather supposed to be people in different parties, even as an anatomy, whereby someone could even be an MPP and NDC, and through dialoguing in parliament, we come out with very pragmatic points about how things should do. It's now being questioned. We as freedom giants, who, as you are talking to us about how we should engage in politics, go the high mandate of trying to, be people who prosecute things, speak against things. I'm political parties, but are neutral. What will we do? And this question will be tackled in an analogy with Chief Zablong. Because when you look at the analogies of African West National, it talks about nationalism, patriotism, justice, excellence. So whichever party you are in, you still have these traits. But when we as freedom giants find ourselves in these political parties, in the middle of difficulties, whereby people are against us, the whole world is against us, and it looks like we are in a den, it looks like we are alone, we are in a forest, and we are sleeping on the ground, it looks like we are stuck and we don't know our left and our right. What can we do to still maintain our identity in these trying times, Chief?
Okay, thank you very much. The main issue now in Ghana is that politicians have made everybody poor so that they can rule and govern you. I can give you examples. If any MP is doing well, but does not go to attend to funerals, weddings, name them. They say he's not doing it. So it is all our own people who expect the MP to give them peanuts. And then they can recognize, where they are, there are some young guys who some MPs just tell them, go and eat from this chop bar every day. And when I come up pay. So they've bought them, using them, and because they don't think. So you need to side their brain. Go to talk to people, young guys, and tell them, hey, it's high time you find something to eat. This person cannot keep feeding you. So assuming you have a wife, so you will come and sit under some shade. Okay? Someone will buy for you to eat, and your wife and child or children at home. How do they feed themselves? And people should not, I keep telling people, look, the way you people are behaving, you cannot check any MP. Because if it is NGCs, everybody has the gangs that they have. And they'll, look, even Zulayo, they'll pick someone's wife just to sweep, and they'll pay him peanuts. And they think the party is doing something good to my wife, so I like it. Tell them that the work they should have done for them is not giving them that sort of job. Let them understand that the money the MPs are chopping is everybody's money. So they should not expect them to come and give them 20 cedis or 100 cedis for their wedding. And some people go to extend that to disturb them by telling them even their children's school fee, they should pay for them. This is where Ghana has reached. Anything MP should do. So how can you check him? I was at home this NDC by-election. contestants, you don't yet even know your feet, whether you'll be choosing or not. And you go to dish out 100 cedis each. For, they call them what? National executive or district executive or whatever. And then someone will decide to give more. And then the food pack, someone will decide to put 200 cedis in each pack. So that is where we have reached. So what talk you have to talk is to go to the roots. Tell them, if we want this nation to be good, let's stop disturbing the MPs. Unnecessary things you have 2 wives, you cannot take care of them. And you are telling the MP to help you marry another woman. Mm-hmm. But that person doesn't see anything wrong with that. So Ghana will have a long way to go. Things that are happening in Africa may not be happening in Kumasi. They might not happen in Zablong. All over, every district or every place have different people, caliber of people, and the way they behave. And I keep telling them, you cannot check your MP if you are feeding on his table. If Honorable come and say, Honorable, who buy the Yabami? Oh, Honorable, you are the house, and then the Yabati. Honorable will give you 100 cedis and maybe go back. It will take a while before you come back again. So you keep waiting for Honorable. So the millions of cedis that they take, they will come and give you peanut and you will salute you. And tell them, oh, we are with you. Anything you want us to do, we'll do for you.